Welcome to another Nitro Nights special as we take a deep dive into the world of Trackmania with our special guest, Eirik Holdal. Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Nitro Nights. My name is Rene, and you guys are in for a deep dive into Trackmania. If you're not yet familiar with the title, don't worry, we got you covered. But if you like racing in any shape or form, then Trackmania is definitely something you should check out. From single-player racing to multiplayer, time trial, or even nowadays racing that's familiar to Formula 1 fans with pit stops and wheel-to-wheel racing, all of that is in. Plus, obviously, loopings, jumps, banking, bumps, high-octane gameplay every single second. That's why Trackmania is cool. Obviously, there's way more than just the game that we talk about today, as we also got a special guest. But even though Trackmania is great, there seems to be a huge difference between the big player base and the esports system and leagues attached to it. To really dive into that topic and find out what's wrong with esports or competitive play in Trackmania, we got Eirik Holdal in today, here in the Berlin studio, and also talk to the big race of Alliance Spam.
Trackmania is running wild. So many new players are finding their way into the awesome world of jumps and loops. Big streamers like Summit1G and Virtual regularly broadcast the game to a massive audience. But the esports side of the game is still not as developed as comparable titles. Even while the game continues to grow and numbers rise, much work still needs to be done, especially in terms of infrastructure for players and tournaments. But why is that? 2021 Trackmania Driver of the Year Pack has this to say about the state of the scene.
It does seem like we have grown massively over the last year. The new game has become, this huge addition. In terms of if the esports is at its big enough point, I think we are at a point where we're generating a league which has 50,000 viewers on different streams. It needs to, I guess, be in the scene a little bit longer. Or there needs to be, bigger drive to get the sponsors into the game to then allow us to then be able to play it full time.
While a lot's been made of Trackmania developer Nadio's takeover by Ubisoft, success is still elusive. The Trackmania Grand League is a seasonal event that features the game's premier players from all over the world. Even though numbers don't yet really reflect the game's success, this format has the potential to skyrocket in future. But in recent years, fans have complained about the format and a lack of promotion. Pack, however, thinks there's more to a higher viewer count than just more adverts.
I think the move of TMGL to have a new system now where it's faster paced is much better. I would have probably preferred it so that everyone could watch the matches at the same time, and that will obviously help build a fan base for those players if they're doing well, for instance. I think definitely obviously more money would help improve viewership. If there's like a huge, I don't know, if you say, there's a 50k prize money on the league.
Even with a lot of work still in progress, Trackmania could sooner or later still become an esports household name.
When it comes to Trackmania, you could obviously talk to a lot of people, players, organizers, or you could talk to that one person that's considered the only ever journalist in the world of Trackmania. So more than happy to have Eirik Holdal with me in the studio. Long travel, so welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we're happy that you made time for us right now that you're a big player in the Trackmania universe. But before we go there, let's start at where you come from, because you had 13 hours of travel to get to Berlin.
That's true. That's the sort of con of living above the Arctic Circle in Norway. But that is something that players, the fans of Trackmania now will have to experience when I'm hosting my event in Melee, so I'm basically forcing them to experience what I have experienced this weekend. But hey, first time since 2 years, I'm allowed to leave Norway, so I'm happy to be here in Berlin.
It's great that you choose Nitro Nights for coming out of Norway. When it comes to Trackmania, there are obviously people out there that might not know Trackmania. Shame on them, definitely. But for you, what's so special about the title?
I guess what hooked me, because I was a kid who sort of laughed at the people who actually played games. It was sort of just intuitive, it's so easy to understand. First person from finish line or from the start line to the finish line is the fastest, is the best. So that hooked me and made me go into it. So I guess that is what's unique about Trackmania, that you don't need to understand esports or gaming in general. You just need to understand that someone is faster than the other, and that is something all humans can relate to.
Maybe I'm just stupid then, because I'm the one that can't understand most of the maps I'm racing in ranked, because there's always like a weird jump, and so there's obviously something in Trackmania that makes it so different to normal racing games, right? How it works, the map that people can build them themselves. I think that's a great feature in Trackmania in general. But if we look at Trackmania as a title, it's not new. Even if some people might see it now, but Trackmania is how old now?
Yeah, I mean, the first game was released in 2003, so there might be people watching this that are born after that, but the latest game was released in 2020. So even though they had a game released in 2023, then now they have a new game that is sort of making new waves, new room, and then leaving the community with new possibilities.
So you think the new title brought in more people and not catering to the same audience before?
Sure. I think this game is the man behind it, Hillis, who is the creator and founder of Ubisoft Nandeo. He said that this game is titled towards esport. This game is titled towards the fans of esport. So this game has a sole focus of catching sort of the esport audience, the esport players, and that is something I think the Trackmania community has missed. Like, when are we going to sort of fully focus on the esport side of Trackmania?
Okay, what we talk about is focused and toward an esports audience, and that's competitive gaming. Looking at numbers, player base wise, Trackmania titles do great, right? And they have been part of the ESWC. That, by the way, for everyone's not from that age range, that is a very, very old, back in the days esports event, which was big, huge. Trackmania was part of that. And now it kind of comes back into that competitive environment. But to be honest, I like Trackmania. I play it in ranked, but I have to say it was hard for me to find information about anything that's serious esports on Trackmania. Why is that when it seems that there are so many people are playing?
I guess I said why I love Trackmania is because it's so easy to understand. And I guess it's a different side. Why is it so hard to find out what Trackmania is? Because it is hard for even a player in Trackmania to understand that, oh, there is an esport side to Trackmania. I played the game for like 4 years before I suddenly understood that, okay, there is like people 3 levels above me. Let's quit playing, let's do something else. So I think today's generation of gamers and today's generation of young people is so used to that games and information is finding them. They don't have to seek out to find information. And I think Ubisoft Nandeo and Trackmania's problem has been in that we haven't put enough marketing powers behind it to sort of force people to find out about it. But that is changing now. More and more people are coming into it. More and more people are finding out that there are an actual esports scene in this. And I can only be positive for the future about that. And I think once the ball is start rolling, then more friends will tell him, more people will share it on social media. So I think if it's sit here in 3 years, I hope that won't be a question about why isn't more people finding out about the beautiful game of Trackmania.
Is it the community pushing for that and helping, or is it something that Ubisoft Nandeo does, or where's the sudden push come from?
I think, obviously, ever since I entered the game of Trackmania in, let's say, 2011, I started playing it. 2015, I started entering the esports scene of it. There always been this thing that we have a gold mine in our hands. If we just get it out there, then this game will grow. So the community has felt that Ubisoft Nandeo hasn't done enough, at least until now. I think the last year Ubisoft Nandeo had, that is the game developer, was the best year they ever had. And I think the community, with the likes of Simracing, who is hosting big events in France, now Virtual, who is blowing up on YouTube, is also forcing Ubisoft themselves to have a look at Trackmania. Because once you take the step from Ubisoft Nandeo pushing it to Ubisoft pushing it, then it's another ballpark for us. So the community wants this game to be out there, and that can sometimes lead to a confliction with how much can Ubisoft Nandeo actually push, and how much do we want it to be pushed.
But when we try to describe the competitive world Trackmania, there's the Grand League, which is currently the highest standard that they can go as a competitive player. They're even paid, right? Like they all have to be paid if you want to be a driver in the series.
Yeah, that is... The banks, I have been vocally against many parts of Trackmania Grand League, but the overall thing about Trackmania Grand League is that it's great for the game. Before, it was basically 2 orgs in this game, Dignitas, Acer, and they put up all the players. So it was no like competitive solo environment, between different orgs.
John or winning it.
Yeah, maybe. Or
Back in the
junior.
old days.
But now they have said that an org cannot have more than one player. So then we have to have forced players to find different orgs to find different players.
Okay.
And one of the agreements there is that you have to pay that player a salary, so you can not only come in, milk him, and then go out. So I think that is, if not the greatest, at least one of the greatest things Trackmania Grand League has brought in, that now more orgs have to be invested in the game of Trackmania.
It sounds really cool. It's like, first of all, bringing orcs in, as you said, and then obviously making sure that the player gets something out of it as well.
Yeah.
I think that's an important step in esports in general, right? Because it takes a lot of time and effort actually to be on that level, especially in Trackmania. We talked about before the show that I also do a bit of ranked Trackmania. Not great, I'm just in silver, so don't worry. I will never qualify for any of that. But it costs a lot of work. In getting in there and being good at it in Trackmania is a huge step. Talking about being great at something, and you already said you're not the biggest fan, probably, of the Grand League. You already started this interview with saying, hey, I do my own event in Norway, somewhere where it's always dark in the year. That's how you described it, kind of. Yeah. Tell us a bit more about that. Like, what's happening there? It's like, probably the hardcore Trackmania fans know, but we also got people watching that don't know, probably.
So what I'm going to do, again, I am a Trackmania journalist. I have a network in Trackmania that is unmatched. And now that I move home to my home city of 2,000 people, I also have a connection in my home village. And I said, why not try to use that connection with the connection I have in esport? Because my hometown is just discovering that more and more people are moving away. Okay. So how can you create something that makes young people stay there? I said, okay, I have the key here. I can just invite the people I know, the players and the fans of Trackmania to come here. It was a stupid idea, but everybody I had pitched this idea to said, why not? And now it's going to be the biggest Trackmania tournament ever. I'm going to force fans and players to actually visit my home village, and that is something I never could experience. So the 16 best players in the world will attend for the biggest Trackmania event in the history of the game. So that is something I'm truly, truly proud of.
That sounds like a great lineup of players, but how does it work with the city? Like, where does it happen in your city? And how did the city react to it? Because I know in Germany we would need to ask them as well to host such an event. How did that work?
So basically, I'm going to host the event 500 meters from where I'm grown up.
I was just waiting for you to say I'm hosted at in my home.
But yeah, for the players who is going to sleep, I booked a home camping site for them. For the spectators, if there is 700 people coming, that is the maximum capacity, so it's not that big of an arena. Majority will watch online.
The 700 is still big. I come from an esports time where we were happy about 30 people watching.
And then you can say, if 700 people visit a town of 2,000 people, how big is that percentage gain?
Do you even have enough hotel rooms?
Yeah. So, yeah, finding out where they are supposed to sleep is something I have a plan of. It's not going to be hotels because we don't have 700 hotel beds, but yeah, it's an experience. And the Trackmania community is surprisingly there as well. I knew they were passionate, but I didn't know that they were so passionate that, okay, I can go one day with traveling just to watch an event, but they're like having a competition about who is going to travel the furthest to come to my event. So it's insane.
Sounds a bit like, you know, the times when there were Facebook events and people were afraid of too many people coming.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of that?
No, because again, you have to book the tickets in advance to give respect to the people who are actually now going to book holidays. So the date is going to be in August. Particular date is not announced yet. I'm going to have a meeting next week to finalize that, so I don't announce it here and they're going to say, what did you do in Berlin, Eirik? But yeah, the people who are going to get the ticket will have plenty of time to check out how are they going to get there, how much money do they need to spend, what do they need to sort of take into an account before actually coming to Melee.
What will you do different in your own tournament then? Because you said Grand League that has some cool elements, but you don't like much of it, and you're pretty vocal about that because that's part of your role in the Trackmania world. So what will be like the core items that you do different?
So just to make it clear, I'm a big fan of the Grand League concept as a whole, but I feel like my job as a journalist has been to pinpoint what can be improved.
Sure.
And I have been pretty vocal against Ubisoft and that is the organizer of Trackmania Grand League, multiple times. But now I feel like, okay, I have barked at that tree for so long. Now I have a possibility of actually just showing what I want. And the main critique I had at the Trackmania Grand League is that it is a show. That is what they have said. It's not esport, it's show. And already in that sentence, I'm like, okay, why? Because in my eyes, what I fell in love with was that it's the show. It's the sort of esport that is the show for me. To watch Usain Bolt run 100 meters is what a show for me is. It wouldn't be a show if there was a random element at the 80 meters mark and then he could fall over and there's suddenly a new winner. So I'm going to allow the best players to compete, to find out who's the best player. And that will generate a show aspect around it, because I think Trackmania with custom maps, with game modes, it can be fair and it can be a feeling you live with that, okay, the best player actually won, and we don't have to go to Twitter and read 15 players saying, it's the format that made him win. So I will try to focus as much as possible on the esports side, but I also know that this is a possibility of showcasing Trackmania to a casual audience. So it's going to be some show elements to it, but that is going to be based on esports.
I have to say, I absolutely love that you have so much passion for it, because like I said, I know Trackmania from the first title, and it was always, especially in France, like a massive community supporting that title, even though it was a niche. And then someone really stepping up and saying, all right, like I criticized enough, I have to show now what I actually want. I love that. So hats off for that. That's really, really cool to see. And I love that such a lovely and passionate community gets someone like you to do something, because not all of us have the opportunity, right? Even if we wanted to, we might not be able to do the same that you did.
Yeah, and that is what I have discovered now, that, okay, I have a connection contact network in Trackmania that is unique, but what can I use that for if I didn't have a contact network in Melee? Because the first people who said yes to this is people producing salmon. I mean, where's the link there? I mean, the link was me. I asked, hey, do you want to do something cool for young people? They say, yes, okay, I have this. And they say, okay, let's go. So the local companies and Melee as a whole, local politician has said yes to this. We are part of European Capital of Culture in 2024. Everybody's supporting me. So it's not a project, it's a project of my own, but I'm not alone, if you understand what I mean. So I don't think I could have done it anywhere else, but I haven't tried to do it anywhere else, but it's so easy. For me, at least for now. And let's see in August, once I'm supposed to do this, if I say it's still easy. But until now, every checkpoint has been a smooth sailing.
That sounds really amazing. Now you just need something like an overtake final map or something for the tournament.
We can talk behind the scenes.
Yeah, maybe we can get that. Talking about the future of Trackmania, not August. We know that's when your event will happen, so everyone has to mark that down in their calendars. What else do you think is out there? There's a title now that isn't released a long time ago, so it's likely that we'll have it for a while. It's very successful. So what do you see will happen to Trackmania?
So the main thing Hillis, again, the CEO of Trackmania, said to me once this game was released is that this will be a game that we want to try to keep as long as possible. So instead of just doing maybe like FIFA, release one game, next year another game, they will update this game, so the players don't have to learn a new mechanic or a different mechanics every time. So if you are interested in Trackmania, this is a time to join, find out about this game. We're going to have, even to some scale, bigger event than my Serrator, who has hosted eSport events since 2013, one of the biggest French streamers. It's going to fill up a stadium in Paris with 15,000 people in June. In July, we're going to have the World Championship. And then in August, my event. So the summer of Trackmania is going to be massive. But looking at the bigger scale, what is sort of farming in viewers is the casual scene, the likes of Virtual again, the likes of Serrator. They are the ones who actually bring in new fans, and that is what we need for this game to grow. So I think if we sit here in 1 year, we're going to say, okay, we took another big step. But if I come here in 2024, we're going to say, I took another big step. So I think for every year that goes now, the game will grow for many different reasons. But I think the next step is for Ubisoft themselves to actually say, okay, this is a game we want to promote and find audience too. So Trackmania is, if you want to get on the sort of hype train, now is the time. Then you can say at least you were the first in the friend group to find out about this game.
I was definitely the last to come back, just because I knew it from the past, and I kind of overlooked the new title. But then everyone else was like, "Did you try it now? It's really cool. The rank mode is amazing." So I get that. That's a lot of fun. But sounds like a great year coming for Trackmania. Really interested in seeing all these events unfold. Obviously, you know how YouTube works, right? So we either sit here in a year, and we have this chat again, and we'll be like, "You remember your first event? That was great. This year will be even bigger." Or we do a video like 10 reasons why we knew already that Eirik will fail. It's YouTube, right? So you're fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm taking a huge risk. I have now for the last 3 years been so lucky to be voted as the community person of the year in Trackmania, who does the most for the game. I could have said, okay, I'm happy with that. I can keep my position in Trackmania. But now I'm saying, okay, let's use that position to something. But the next year, I can actually win the Clown of the Year for failing at organizing an event. But I think instead, I will just show people again that, okay, with the community of Trackmania behind me, with the people of Melee behind me, it's not impossible to do anything. And that is sort of the vision I have with my event. And that is why I'm sort of stepping down as a journalist to do something else for Trackmania.
Oh, we're definitely in for supporting you and obviously following you on that journey. It sounds amazing. Thanks, Eirik, for taking the time and obviously jumping on so many different planes, making it to Berlin. And we're really keen on seeing your event.
If I'm going to catch my event in August, I guess I need to travel now. So again, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to visiting Berlin for the first time and hope it's not the last.
Now that we heard the perspective from Eirik, so an organizer and journalist in the world of Trackmania, it's time to talk to a pro player. And for that, we actually bring in Spam from Alliance, one of the drivers that's not just known for his great skill on the track, but also for the entire Trackmania collection. You will see in the background, actually, of his camera shot. Hey, Spam, how are you, man?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, we're happy that you got time for us. That's the bit part. It's like, tell me, just because we see it here again, and I saw it on Twitter previously, how many different Trackmania items do you have?
I think it's about 25 different retail games that are behind me in the back. It's not a complete collection. I'm still missing about 4 to 5 games, but it's very difficult to find these nowadays.
It's a big notification out for everyone out there. If you might have an old Trackmania box laying around somewhere, contact Spam, he might want it for the collection. But let's talk about the actual topic today, right? Competitive Trackmania and esports in Trackmania. Tell me, is there a certain problem with actually finding esports in Trackmania, or is it just me?
I think overall finding a lot of things in Trackmania can be quite challenging. It's only about a year ago where Trackmania really started booming, especially on Twitch with new streamers getting involved, YouTube creators. But the esports scene never really got as much attention as the fun aspects of the game. And it's really tough to get into esports of Trackmania as a whole because it's such a niche game. Not a lot of esports racing games are out there. So yeah, it's very difficult to get into Trackmania esports.
Oh, but that also makes it unique, right? So there's enough reasons to actually get into Trackmania. We touched about that a bit earlier in today's show, but you said it boomed like a year ago. Is it because there's this marketing punch missing behind Trackmania, or what is it?
I think marketing is definitely a huge thing that is lacking in Trackmania. But with the release of the new game and all of the new aspects to the game, such as matchmaking, daily competitions, it really brought more attention to Trackmania as a whole. Because back in the days, we only had some regular servers. People join, people leave. But now you actually have an incentive to boot up the game, especially the new game, Trackmania 2020, as we call it, to play your daily competition, to boot up some matchmaking with friends, to challenge new records or get trophies even. There's a whole new system involved. And yeah, I think with the new game, it definitely got a lot more attention.
It definitely helped. Yeah, I have a few friends actually spamming my Discord every single time. So it's like, oh, I bait the author medal and all that.
Exactly.
It worked there. But what is your thoughts on the entire structure of Trackmania, like the competition and esports side of it?
Trackmania esports or the competitive scene really struggled mainly because it was all community created. So people like me host their own competitions and people can join that. But there was never really an official tournament, as you would say, that would be the World Cup of Trackmania. We always had to have someone from the outside creating a tournament, and it wasn't really something official. But nowadays we have this league called the Trackmania Grand League, which is probably the the most prestigious tournament that you can play in Trackmania with the 16 best players, and it is actually organized by the makers of the game themselves, which is really a promising thing. Of course, the league has some struggles, ups and downs, but they're really working on getting a main tournament for the best players out there. And I think, yeah, it's just really, really good sign that the makers of the game are actually standing behind the main competition as well. So it can develop, the esports scene can grow, and it's not really relying on all these community events that the players themselves host.
Yeah, I mean, we're passionate about it, so we'll obviously find something to criticize when it comes to a league in our favorite games. As we know that one of the unique elements of the Grand League is that players have to be paid. Like, how does all of that work? Is it something that was taken well on by the organizations? You're obviously a driver for one of those teams. Does it work well with Trackmania and going to orgs?
I think getting organizations involved in Trackmania is really difficult because we are not as big as Counter-Strike or Valorant or any of these games. So there's not a whole lot of exposure. So there is not really an incentive for an organization to get into the league, but they can see that the league is growing because it's new. The people involved right now are motivated to push it forward. So there's growing potential. The players involved, they're all dedicated players. Many of them are also streamers, so there's a huge benefit for organizations to pick up these pro players and also big content creators. But salary is always a lacking aspect in Trackmania. As I can say from a personal perspective, I put in way more hours to practice these maps, and it requires so much focus. And the pay for many players is just, way below average if you compare that to other esports. But that is mainly because of the exposure that Trackmania cannot give for sponsors and these organizations. Yeah, and that's, exposure pays. It's not really the pro player that pays. In this case, it's more of the exposure that will pay.
But what can we do in terms of exposure? I mean, if I think of the classic Simracing titles, right? We got all these liveries where we got our sponsors on from the team, right? And our names on, and we show logos on the cars. Kind of hard for me to imagine that in Trackmania, especially since everything is so quick. They're really hard to spot. Do you have any ideas of what could be done there?
Yeah, in game we have, of course, we are driving in a stadium, so you have a lot of banners available. And what they are doing with the Grand League is they have rotating sponsors from your own organization. So let's say if my shoutcaster is following my point of view, then they will see all the alliance sponsorships all surrounding in the stadium, which is one way to present sponsors. Also, of course, the car skin, but that's about it. There's not really a whole lot more that you can do in the game besides having these animated panels or specifically the car sponsor deals.
Right, so there seems to be like there's a lot of work still left, right? But it's great to hear that there are the first mechanics in there to present sponsors, because we know how important it is in the world of competitive gaming and esports. As you know, we had Eirik here sitting on the couch, and he's coming up with a great tournament in August this year. And there's a question that says, how do new tournaments like the one Eirik does help the scene? And I can tell you right now, Eirik told me it depends on your answer now if you actually make it into the tournament or not. So what do you want to say?
Well, to be honest, I've been playing competitions in Trackmania since 2011. And I think this is the first time, besides me playing the World Cup in 2012, that I'm actually really excited for a tournament. It's not because just the event itself, but also the place where it is. The whole surrounding, the vibe of the event. Not like the prize pool that is attached to this tournament isn't really that much of a hasn't really an impact on me. The event itself is just so special, so new, so fresh, never seen before, and that's what excites me. I think it will blow Trackmania if everything goes well. Of course, that is a given.
Yeah, we already told him what videos we do if it doesn't go well, but I can see nodding in the background. I think you got a chance to get in there. But it's great to talk to someone that's so passionate about Trackmania. You already said you were there 2011, right? You got all the boxes in the background, so you're really die-hard Trackmania fan, which is great to see across all those years. But give us one last thing then to get people into Trackmania and start their own journey there.
I think the best thing, Trackmania is free. Of course, there is this subscription model behind it, but if people can just look past that and try out the game, because you can play matchmaking, you can play a royal game mode, you can play the campaign every 3 months, brand new tracks. I mean, try it out. It's free. If you enjoy it, you know, you can upgrade your subscription, but at least give it a try before you knock it down.
That sounds like a good start in Trackmania. Thanks, Ben, for taking the time, and yeah, good luck for all the upcoming tournaments, and might see you in Norway then.
Thank you so much.
That's it for today's Nitro Nights show. What is your opinion on Trackmania Esports? And what would you like to see changed to make it more interesting? As always, leave your feedback down in the comment section and hit the like and subscribe button and also the bell and all the other things you're supposed to do on these channels. For example, you could follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well. My name is Rene, and I'll see you guys next time. If you like this episode, why not check out another Nitro Nights where we talked about which sim racing title is the most realistic? Or take a look at why my colleague Marvin was wrong about Project Cars 3.